To See in the Dark by Joseph Elms. Soapy was not filled with the festive spirit. He was, to the bewildered, nervous amusement of his soon-to-be ex-colleagues, ranting and gesticulating in the canteen during their morning break. Magic will nae put a turkey on the table. Magic will nae put presents under the tree. Magic will nae pay this energy bill. It will nae put petrol in the motor. Magic will nae keep the lights on. Don't talk to me about magic. He looked around, but no one met his gaze. The rest of the boys in the canteen just looked down into their lunches. A few of them chewed slowly, so that it was silent. Kelly, who had meant well when he had suggested that Soapy should be optimistic about future opportunities, as it was the time of the year for miracles, seemed especially shamed, to the extent that he pulled his paper cracker hat off his head. "You've known about it for a month, mate," said someone. Soapy had nothing to say to that. It was a fair point. He had, as usual, made himself look like a fool. Soapy peeled back the lid of his lunchbox to see what his kids had prepared for him. He had no intention of eating anything, but he had to look somewhere. Inside the box was his piece and his crisps. There was also a carton of milk, a cookie, and carrot sticks. In many ways, it was a completely appropriate gesture. His employer thought he was useless, his colleagues considered him pathetic, and now even his kids considered him a target of mockery. He closed his lunchbox and pushed it to one side. He looked at the end of employment documents instead. It was mostly legal jargon that made him feel about as valued as one of the frozen carcasses hanging in the warehouse next door. Terms and conditions, employment rights, duties and conditions, employee benefits. Soapy sat beyond the break bell and read through every page. He didn't notice the gaffer looking in through the window in the canteen door, or hear him tap the window with his knuckles. The boss chose not to press the issue and remind him that break time was over. Letting a guy go 2 days before Christmas, then hounding him about break times, wouldn't be wise when there were so many sharp knives close at hand. Soapy went home to an empty house. He checked in the living room and in the kitchen on the off chance that the furniture was back, or that a dinner had been left in the fridge. He had known in his heart on the journey home that it would still just be darkness and a few boxes scattered about, but the faint hope that things would be back to normal again kept him from driving into the harbour instead of back to the house. Soapy watched his laundry thrashing and spinning through the porthole in the washing machine for the whole cycle. He went to bed afterwards. On the morning of Christmas Eve, following a restless night, Soapy watched the minutes pass on his phone and caught the alarm before it started to ring. In the light from the screen, he could see his breath. He got out of bed and put his hand on the radiator. It was steel cold. He hand-checked the socks that he had put over them before going to bed. They were still squelchy wet. All his uniform was still wet, and there was nothing else for him to put on. Soapy used the torch on his phone to navigate downstairs. The light didn't come on when he opened the fridge. He took out his lunchbox and the last of the milk. He ran the kitchen tap to put water in a small pot for the gas hob. While the water heated, he emptied the foil and wrappers out of the box and then rinsed it. He broke up the crusts and munched them along with the carrot sticks to save them all going to waste. He flattened out the paper rubbish on the surface of the worktop so that he could roll it into a tube and stuff it into the already bulging bin bag hanging from the handle of the back door. In the moonlight, he saw that he had mistaken a handwritten note for a wrapper. When he held up his phone to read it, by the screen glow, the battery died. Soapy left home in the dark. The streets were sparkling with frost and the car door only cracked open after a solid heave. When the windows had cleared, he took an indirect path through the scheme. He passed the kids' new house. The soft glow of night lights and a decorated tree lit up the edges of the closed curtains. There was a Santa Stop Here sign in the grass. He slowed the car almost to a stop and tried to take a mental photograph. Soapy pulled his car into the car park that looked onto the beach. At the edge of the headlights, he watched the tide churning against the sand. He turned off the engine and rolled down the window to listen to the rhythm of the tide. It sounded like breathing. The breathing you might do when you were trying to calm down. He decided to get closer to it. Soapy walked into the water until it was at his knees. The water seemed to pull him in and encourage him to come deeper. The cold and the quiet drained away his worries. The deeper he went, the simpler became his vision. He stripped off his jacket and pullover and let them float away. When he was up to his neck, the tide pulled him farther into the dark. He felt his feet lift from the silt, and he closed his eyes, and he let the water take him all the way into the dark. Above the sound of the thrashing white noise of the waves, Soapy heard grunts and snorts. Creatures. They whined and yelped. He looked back in the direction of the shore. There were lights in a V formation just above the surface of the water. They lit shimmering patches on the surface of the water. The light that led the others in his direction was red. As the lights drew closer, he heard splashing and panting. Voices. "There's a guy already out here," said one. "He's keen," said another. There was some laughter. The red light switched to green and then white. "You're a bit far out there, big man. Why won't you come back in a bit? Just come towards the light." Soapy waded towards these men until his feet were once again on firm ground. The lights were around him now. They were the headlamps of a group of bare-chested men. "Good of you to join us, mate," said a voice. "Can it be a cold dip to set you up for the day?" said another. For 10 minutes, Soapy bounced in the waves with these strange men. They talked about their plans and their kids. They spoke frankly about their problems and their fears. They walked together back up the frost-crunchy sand back to their cars. Soapy felt a hand on his shoulder as he opened his car door to get in. "Have you not brought a towel or anything, mate?" asked one of the swimmers. Before he could answer, he had been guided into the back seat of another car where some of the group were huddled. They slung a huge thick towel over him and put a polystyrene cup filled with coffee from a flask in his hand. They told him to take his shoes off and put his freezing feet on the big plastic bottle of hot water down in the footwell. When it was time to go, Soapy thanked everyone and agreed to be there for the Christmas Day dip the same time the next morning. They refused to take the towel back and made him accept a woolly hat to cover his wet hair. They would not let him leave before he gave them his number. Soapy slid into the driver's seat of his car. He searched his pockets for keys. He instead pulled out a wet, folded square of lined paper. It was the letter he had tried to read in the gloom of the kitchen an hour before. He unfolded it and read the penciled words. The day had broken sufficiently so that he could now make it out without turning on the interior light. In the orange dawn, he read it. "Daddy, I hope that you like the lunch we have made for you. Mum said to Gran that you were in a dark place. It must be because we took the lamp and the tree when we went to the new house. I have put some of Rudolph's carrots in this lunch for you. They help him see in the dark, so they will help you see better as well. Love you, Dad, and Mercy Christums. Soapy started the car. The radio played O Little Town of Bethlehem. He went home.